Hello. Hello. Welcome. Welcome. This is the global community for adults who are healing CPTSD. My name is Athena, and I'm going to facilitate our time together tonight. This is week 1 of our very new series on Pete Walker's most recent book titled Holistically Treating Complex PTSD, a Six-Dimensional Approach. I know we've been sort of talking about this over the past month or so, and I'm very, very excited that this week has finally come, and here we are. So this is week 1. I don't know how many weeks we will be doing this. But I will start off by saying that I warmly welcome you if this is your very first time here. I did start the stream a little bit early so that we could let everyone know that we're doing something a little bit new. But I just hit the record button right when I first sat down. So I will likely do something very similar, sort of start the stream about an hour early just to let everybody know. No one was late. No one's late. Everybody is right on time. We will be starting every single Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will be having a weekly discussion group on Pete Walker's most recent book. So week 1 today, well, first of all, this YouTube channel is made possible by you, our community of adults who are healing from repeated relational trauma. And it's an honor to come here and heal right beside you. And this YouTube channel is sponsored by the Foundation for Post-Traumatic Healing and Complex Trauma Research, also known as CPTSDfoundation.org. And there's a link in the pinned comment, the description section, and I'll put one in the chat box now. And as I mentioned in weeks prior, I'm getting ready to start publishing sort of like an audio journal. I guess you could call it a podcast, but that sounds so formal and fancy. It's more like an audio journal. It's just me, the me that you know, the me that I am always here with you. And I'm doing that over in our peer support chat group community. It's away from social media. There's a link in the description section in the chat box. And we have a ton of new sort of organizational changes and connecting points that are going on 7 days a week, starting in the month of July, so in a couple weeks. But for tonight, what we are going to do is I'm going to read to you Pete Walker's dedication in his book, and just a little bit about what the book's about. Like a little bit about Pete Walker and what the book is going to encompass. So if we're looking at the book, which there's no need for you to go out and buy anything, I would highly recommend finding this book if it's something that you find interesting and you have the means to do so. But, if you do not, that's okay also, because I'm just going to read to you the introduction in the book, and then each week we'll sit here together like we always do, and we'll have a discussion about some things that Pete is talking about in his new book. The 6-dimensional approach that he talks about in healing complex trauma is the 6 dimensions are relational, behavioral, cognitive, emotional, somatic, and spiritual. And we will definitely just go really, really, really slow. And we will just talk about the book. And I'll be checking in with you as I always do A very special thank you to John Harvey, Ninja Taco, Kira, Vi, anyone here on our Blue Wrench crew. And hello, John Harvey. No, we did not start earlier. Well, the stream started earlier, but I just wanted to welcome anyone who comes across us. So, yeah. Mandy J and Lil J say, I feel anxious about this being different. Oh, I want to pause and just honor your anxiety. Of course, you feel anxious. Change is change can feel scary, especially for those of us who have experienced repeated relational trauma. So we oftentimes we will get used to something and we will think, oh, good, this feels safe. And then if anything changes, we think, oh no, this is unsafe now. They changed into a different person, or this changed into a different thing. So I just want to pause and honor your anxiety. Your brain and your body are magnificent and brilliant, and they're trying to protect you. So the good news is you get to choose. You get to choose whether you like this or whether you don't like it. You know? I want you to know that all of your concerns are welcome. All of your anxiety is welcome. Everything is welcome. And let me just say hello to anybody else who's here. Hello to Craig and Katie, Rebecca, Jeffrey Sherman, Kitty, Lisa Marie, Mighty, Candida, Jen, Mandy J and Lil J, Bora Bora, and anybody else that I didn't get a chance to say hello to. So the dedication, hello and a warm welcome to you, Andre. I feel like I've met you a couple of times before, but maybe it's a different Andre. I love your avatar with the moon and the tree. It's beautiful. So the dedication to Pete's most recent book is so beautiful. Hello, Taz. Hi, Josh. Oh, Josh is here for the first time. We warmly welcome you. We are a warm and welcoming bunch. And you're here for week 1. So if you look on the screen, you will see, I'm going to switch it up a tiny bit next week just so you can see everything on the screen. But that's me. That's me wearing my bright orange workout t-shirt today with my hair up. I had just gotten back from a walk. And that's Pete Walker's book. And I'm holding a copy of it. I'm sitting here in my living room in my chair. And this is a thumbnail for YouTube. And it's also for our weekly newsletter. There's a free newsletter that the foundation puts out. It's called Trauma Informed Tuesday. We've been doing it now for 7 years. It's free, always free. It comes out every Tuesday. And it's just links to a whole bunch of different resources so that are all CPTSD related. So if you're interested, you can find it. I don't really have a link. I know I should probably, if I'm going to talk about something, I should have a link. So, but yeah, if you go to cptsdfoundation.org and you just click around and look for the thing that says, it either says newsletter or it says Trauma Informed Tuesday, you'll click and it'll say, oh, would you like to receive a free weekly newsletter? And then you would just fill it out. So I think it'll just ask for your name and your email, I think. And it will come to your inbox every Tuesday. As long as you whitelist us, if you make us, move us into your inbox that's like your primary inbox, or if you whitelist our email. Otherwise, it'll go into your junk folder because that's what happens, right, with newsletters. So I'm going to begin here tonight, and I'm going to read you this beautiful dedication. You know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to read to you. I'm going to read a quote from one of my friends who is a colleague. Where did it go? Oh no, I lost it. Where is it? Oh, darn it. I have a colleague of mine wrote a review or a something, whatever you call that, like a blurb for this book. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is a friend of mine. Her name is Sharmi. You guys might remember her from the very first CPTSD Awareness Day. Her name is Sharmi Gowrie Krizik, and she's a trauma therapist. And she writes, "Thank you very much for what you do." And this is a note from her to Pete. Sharmi says, "Thank you very much for all what you do. I got more from your book than from any therapy. I know many others who have felt this way too. You have made a difference for many CPTSD survivors like me and made us feel understood and validated. Your knowledge and understanding have been an inspiration for my own professional development as a trauma therapist, which in return has resulted in post-traumatic growth and healing in many of my clients. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." And that is a note from Sharmi to Pete, or as you know, I call him Uncle Pete. So, and then this is the beautiful dedication that Pete wrote for this book, and he mentions us. He mentions all of us souls. You'll hear. He doesn't name he doesn't name us, the family, by name, but I'm pretty sure he knows that we're the family and that we do fantasy family instead of like fantasy football, and that he's Uncle Pete, and that you all are my friendly family of choice. So this is what he writes. He says, "I dedicate this book to the psychotherapists who most aided my journey out of alienation from myself and everyone else. I am so grateful to Derek Simmons, Joe Gaha, Bob Rosenbush, Ann Russell, Gina H., and Will Schutz. I am especially indebted to Will for his remarkably evolved compassion and vulnerable authenticity. This was evidenced in his beautiful, self-compassionate self-protectiveness. His modeling helped me to see how self-protectiveness is a higher octave of compassion. As such, it instinctively awakens as protective anger for self and others when protection is needed from bullies and other narcissists. It is loving from such deep caring that it morphs, if necessary, into angrily procuring safety for oneself, for one's intimates, and for others who are unable to protect themselves. I also dedicate this book to all the abandoned souls who have no help recovering from the endemic syndrome of complex PTSD, especially the huge populations of people who are homeless, imprisoned, blindly addicted to self-medicating substances and processes, and or enslaved in narcissistically exploitative relationships. I further dedicate this book to the memory of John Bradshaw, to whom I am eternally indebted for his groundbreaking work in illuminating many crucial dynamics of treating childhood trauma. John was a genius who came up with invaluable and highly effective ways of identifying and remediating the damage done by abusive and neglectful parenting. The greatest acknowledgement I have ever received was from other trauma therapists who said I have significantly supplemented the evolution and accessibility of his work. I am also very, very, very grateful for John Bradshaw's work. And I would definitely agree that Pete has brought attention to his work. I never knew about the book, The Shame That Binds Us, until I read Pete Walker's work. So I am eternally grateful to Pete for pointing me in the direction of that book. So I'm going to read to you a little bit about the introduction of this book, and then in the weeks to come, we'll talk about just how we're able to heal from complex PTSD in ways that are relational, behavioral, cognitive, emotional, somatic, and spiritual, and just some key takeaways and how it applies to our lives on a daily basis. So here we go. Page 1. Pete says, I am a licensed psychotherapist in California. I have a bachelor's of science in social work and a master's in counseling psychology. I also have an extensive CV of postgraduate studies in trauma-related subjects. Most notably, I've effectively treated numerous trauma survivors over the past 40 years. And during this time, I've also provided many classes, writings, and consultations for other trauma therapists and trauma survivors. I include many unique ideas in this book, which I believe are validated by my inductive reasoning and research. My research is culled from a huge amount of feedback from clients, readers of my books, and other therapists who testify to the effectiveness of my multidimensional approach to aiding survivors to recover from CPTSD. My approach to self-treatment is laid out in detail in my book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, a guide map for recovering from childhood trauma, which has more than 10,000 five-star reviews on Amazon. And additionally, I've received tens of thousands of emails and phone calls and letters of gratitude from readers attesting to its unique and profound helpfulness. Without any advertising, this book has exploded in popularity over the last 10 years. Counting paperbacks, ebooks, audiobooks, and translated CDs and printed and ebook editions, it's sold over 300,000 copies solely via word of mouth. Many of these mouths are those of survivors like us and therapists who have informed me that they've bought multiple copies of my book to give to friends, families, and clients, many of whom in turn have promoted the book to others. Added to this research are my 4 decades of my own recovery work as a complex PTSD survivor myself. And this includes thousands of hours of individual and group therapy. Further evolution of my model comes from a great deal of providing individual and group trauma therapy, as well as providing many hours of supervision, consultation, and education to other trauma therapists. Many survivors have written to me exclaiming that my book is the only thing that's really helped them. And not uncommonly, they add that this is true after years of many disappointing experiences with therapy, classes, and other books. Many have also expressed awe in the fact that my book captures the workings of their inner world, which no one else has ever perceived or understood. Quite a few survivors have sent me versions of this inquiry. Quote, "How did you get inside of me to know so much about how my mind works?" I'm pretty sure I sent him an email like that. He continues, he says, "My favorite iteration of this sentiment was, I learned so much about my inner travails from your book. I felt like you rented space in my brain and then wrote about it." A few hundred therapists have also told me that they recommend and sometimes give my book to their clients. And many others also thanked me for the many free downloadable articles on my website, which they also give as handouts to their clients. Many readers have likewise told me that they introduced the book to their therapists, and now they use it together like a textbook in their sessions. I've also heard from close to at least 100 CPTSD survivors who've told me a version of, "Your book saved my life. I mean, literally, I was truly on the verge of suicide." And finally, my book is now available in 23 languages. I have also had adult survivors from 60 countries thank me for my book's guidance on helping them to significantly reduce and rectify the CPTSD symptoms that were embedded in them by their families. So many of their stories of continual neglect and abuse are remarkably similar, as are their reports of their symptoms. I believe this supports my observation that much of the world is suffering from a psychological pandemic of traumatizing parenting. It increasingly appears to me that the world is steadily becoming more entranced into emulating Western values. And as this occurs, parenting skills seem to deteriorate with increasing numbers of parents embracing the destructive myth that minimal quality time with children can replace their need for copious quantity time with their parents. I just want to pause and I want to acknowledge how so many of us in this community come from families that planted these, like this malware from neglect, abuse, dysfunction, exploitation, some form of interpersonal, intergenerational family dysfunction. And so many of us have that malware implanted onto our hard drives that one of my goals in sharing this work with you here on YouTube is for you to be made aware of how powerfully healing it is to be in the company of others who are on a similar healing journey, openly discussing the things that we may all have experienced or that many of us have experienced. Something transformational happens when we talk about the things that are not often talked about. And it's as though the shackles of shame fall to the ground and we are not held back by that inner dialogue, the malware that's planted, you know, the malware that's planted on our hard drives when we're able to be around others. Like, for instance, these discussions that we have here on YouTube together every week publicly, we have dozens, if not hundreds, of these types of discussions away from social media over at the foundation, right? And all of us are healing together. There are thousands of us that are all healing together, whether it's in a chat group or on daily recovery support calls. We have calls twice a day, every day, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, we have several different calls. And then there's also a chat box area, right? And there's access to resources on post-traumatic growth, worksheets, things that help us, like psychoeducational materials, like what I'm reading to you now. And it's resources like these. You all know this. So many of you have been here with me for over 10 years. And we come together, we do life together, and we heal. You know that I am right beside you. And the reason I'm even alive and able to be right beside you is because of resources like this. So I absolutely honor and respect anyone's need to step away because this isn't your cup of tea, and that's okay. That's okay. My hand is on my heart. I see you and I honor you. Right? I honor you. I honor your process. I honor your journey. And for those of you who choose to be here, I see you. I honor you. I honor your process. I honor your journey. And for those who are listening on a replay, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to continue reading a little bit of the introduction. And the part that I want to read to you right now that I felt would be pretty impactful was Pete's description of the six-dimensional approach, which many of you will recognize as something I've been talking about here and at the foundation for the better part of like 7 years. And that is, my version of it is where we glance at every single day, we look at just one thing that we can think about or do in the realm of something that is healing or acknowledging and observing what it is that we're going through mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, financially, educationally, or occupationally. Right? So what Pete has done is he's taken my jumbled up thoughts in my brain that I've been rambling about for 6 or 7 years, and it's all laid out here in a very digestible way that will cause minimal to no confusion. So this is Pete's description of this six-dimensional approach. That way you can decide if this is something that you may or may not be interested in. He says, I use more psychological jargon in this book more than my others, and I do so to fully engage psychotherapists new to treating this diagnosis. This is especially important as so few are trained to work effectively with complex PTSD. I also strive for a balance by weaving in everyday language. I intermittently use the vernacular to model ways to psychoeducate survivors in words that are comprehensible to them, that stimulate their trust and buy in to fully participating in their own recovery. Moreover, my aim is to also make this book accessible to coaches and other helpers who are not licensed therapists. While this book is largely oriented toward guiding psychotherapists to effectively treat CPTSD, I see considerable evidence that well-therapized and psychologically sophisticated coaches, co-counselors, friends, and fellow recoveries can effectively make use of my multi-dimensional model. Self-helpers, that's us, can also benefit, especially in the realm of repairing their traumatized relationships with themselves. This entails learning to love, protect, and care for themselves in ways that deconstruct their learned habits of self-contempt and self-abandonment. The central theme of this book is that untreated survivors of ongoing childhood trauma typically still suffer from 6 key dimensions of developmental arrests. Once again, these 6 dimensions of wounding occur on relational, behavioral, cognitive, emotional, somatic, and spiritual levels of their essential being. The key dimension of all of this suffering is the relational, as all serious symptoms of CPTSD derive from 2 prime causative factors. Number 1, chronic social alienation. That's why we're all here together, so that we can combat chronic social alienation. And number 2, chronic self-alienation. Social alienation, growing up with, quote, caretakers who ongoingly relate to them in abusive and or neglectful ways, swamps them in chronic anxiety, toxic shame, and despairing loneliness. Kids growing up in such hellholes never or rarely feel safe, loved, worthwhile, or comforted. And even worse, they typically develop intense social anxiety or phobia, which often strands them in the hopelessness of distrusting all other people. And the chronic self-alienation. Consequently, we never develop a caring, supportive, self-protective relationship with ourselves. Typically, we relate to ourselves in the same way as our traumatizing parents. We only notice ourselves negatively. We are our own worst enemies, incapable of caring for ourselves or ever cutting ourselves any slack. Pete continues, consequently, the effective treatment of CPTSD depends mightily on therapists creating a safe and supportive relationship with survivors. Typically, this work hinges on rebooting the arrested development of their repressed instincts of self-compassion and self-protectiveness. To achieve this, therapists do great service when they psychoeducate their clients about their need to become compassionate toward and protective of themselves. They enhance this development by regularly manifesting feelings of empathy, compassion, and protectiveness toward them. Now, I'm going to pause right now as we get ready to just have this open discussion. Everything that Pete just said that is helpful to those of us living with CPTSD is everything that I've dedicated my entire life to, not the least of which is my time here with you every week. When you arrive here, you feel warmly witnessed, warmly welcomed, fully acknowledged for your unique individual being here in our community. Your feelings, all of them, are validated. You're able to be here with us in community, sharing what's been working for you and what hasn't been working for you. And each of us walks away having experienced safe enoughness and a felt sense of empathy. And that is what Pete is talking about in this book. That is why I'm so excited to share it with you. Because if any of us here are still living with the symptoms of CPTSD, then we can benefit. We can benefit from educating ourselves on what it actually looks like to heal. He shows us the way. He's lived it. He's been healing his complex PTSD for 40 years. He has the roadmap. And it's been tested hundreds and thousands of times with 300,000 books. That was just the first book, not even including all the other ones. In 60 countries, in a whole bunch of different languages. He has the map. And all he wants to do is share it with us. And for that, I'm grateful. So very grateful. So I want you to know that I'm excited to share share his take on what it might look like to heal. And the whole idea of this six-dimensional approach, the way that I gather my Athenatized version of this, if we look at the first dimension that he mentions most often, which is the relational dimension, that's the relationship we have with one another and the relationship we have with ourselves. So anyone that's here who has relationships completely figured out with everybody else and relationship with themselves completely figured out, let me know. This might not be for you. But for me, some of the topics that he talks about with regards to healing our relational wounds He talks about early childhood trauma from when we're like infants and really young children. He talks a lot about what it feels like in the body to experience chronic loneliness. Am I the only one that has experienced chronic loneliness? The ache, like the hole where it just like physically hurts. He also talks about what I've been working on in trauma therapy with Sonia for almost 8 years. It's called earned secure attachment. It's a healing of an early childhood wound where you learn how to relate to other people, not from your wound, but from a place of feeling secure with them, right? And then one of the other areas of relational issues that he talks about in the book, that he pulls apart and shares about, is authentic intimacy. Now, I'm not just talking about sexual intimacy, I'm talking about authentic intimacy. The level of connectedness that you experience when you are in relationship with another person and you feel safe enough to be yourself, and you know that they're just going to accept you. You know that you belong. You don't have to try to fit in. You know that you belong. You feel safe enough to be yourself, and you know that you belong. And you know, if you've ever experienced that, even once, I bet you know what it feels like to walk away from that experience with your head held just a little bit higher, and you feel just a little bit more worthy, a little bit more confident, a little less weird. You feel less othered. Those are some of the things that Pete talks about in this book. It is truly life-changing. So that's the first dimension that Pete talks about in the book. And even if that were the whole book, even if the entire book was just about healing early childhood trauma so that I don't experience chronic loneliness, and so that I can relate to others in a secure way versus being terrified, or glancing at what it might look like to learn how to consistently and reliably feel safe enough and seen and heard and valued and understood, so that I can experience a level of connectedness where I walk away and I don't feel like an alien. I don't feel othered. I feel seen and and like we've connected. Right? Even if that were the whole book, I would be just as excited to tell you all about it. But that's just the very first section of the book. So, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence. I appreciate you. And for those of you who are, this really isn't like your cup of tea, I just want you to know that I see you, I hear you, I honor you. And after we finish up, however many weeks we spend on this book, perhaps we could go back to doing some nervous system regulation, since so many of us seem to really enjoy that. And I love spending that gentle time with you, that tender time of breath work and meditation and compassionate healing strategies. I really enjoy. Really enjoy it. So yeah, I'm not sure how many weeks. It could be 6 weeks. It could be 10 weeks. It could be a year. Remember when remember several years ago when we were like, yeah, we're going to read Melody Beatty's book. and on language of letting go, on the fawn trauma response, on codependency. And we ended up doing that for 2 years. Mama Melody, may she rest in peace. I was so absolutely devastated, brought to tears when Mama Melody passed away this year. It's an interesting feeling when someone that you have learned from and who has been a role model in your life at a distance. It's interesting when they pass away, right? So I want you to know that I look forward to my time here with you. And whatever that time might look like, whether it's reading this book with Pete, or doing our nervous system regulation, whatever it is that we end up doing together, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your presence and for you communicating your preferences with me. It means a lot to me. So thank you all so much. I hope that I get an opportunity to see you over in our community. Let me see here if I'm able. I had our community information. Oops, where did it go? That's not the right one. Where's my... There you are. I couldn't read the chat box. It was frozen. Yes. Yeah, Mama Melody. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, so I hope I'm able to see you over in our community. I'll put a link in the chat box. And if not, that's okay. That's okay. I'll be back here next Monday and every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And when we're all done with this series, perhaps we can, I'll check in with you and see how you feel about nervous system regulation or something else. Okay? So in the meantime, please be extra kind and patient and gentle with yourself because you're worth it. And I will see you soon. Good night, everyone.